Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well. Today we're going to understand compressible flow. This particular topic has been added in recently in GATE 2021 syllabus. So we're going to discuss about it and we're going to know the basic details of compressible flow. So here I mentioned the definition of the compressible flow. Now before knowing the flow, the type of flow, we're going to understand the type of fluid. So from this definition, let me just read it out. If there is any change in the density with respect to pressure, temperature or velocity in any fluid, then the fluid is known as compressible fluid. So now we're going to understand this particular definition with respect to this particular example. Now let's say there is a section, there is a pipe, there is a channel, and in this channel a fluid is flowing. So what happens now? This particular channel has two sections, section 1 and section 2, and these two sections I have already mentioned over here. And at section 1 the temperature is T1 and the pressure is P1, velocity is V1. And at section 2 temperature is T2, pressure is P2 and the velocity is V2. That means the parameters are different. So what does it mean? Let's say at this particular section, that means section 1, the fluid particles are at a separation of some distance of 0.1 nanometer because of these thermodynamic properties, and not properties but yes parameters. And at section 2, because of these thermodynamic parameters, the separation between the atoms or the molecules, whatever the type of gas is, the separation has become now 0.2 nanometer. So there is a difference. That means because of the variation of these parameters, there certainly some changes in the interspace of the atoms, or we can say in the interatomic distances. So this is what I am trying to say. That means if the interatomic distance is going to change, then the density is going to change. And if density is going to change, so what does it mean? The flow is supposed to be known as the compressible flow. So this is what basically the compressible flow is all about. Now before moving further, we need to understand how many types of relations we need to know to calculate the relationship between various thermodynamic parameters. Let's say for example P, T, density. These are the parameters we need to develop the relationship, and to develop the relationship we need to know some basic concepts. So first of all we need to understand these 5 basic concepts and then we'll move forward. Now first part is continuity equation. So these two equations will be in the form of differential equations, because in differential form, to develop the relationship between these thermodynamic parameters, that will be quite easy. So that is why we're going to develop the relation in the form of differential equations, and we're going to simply use them as of now. And later we're going to know the momentum equation in the x direction and the y direction both. Third relation will be of the first law of thermodynamics, that will be of the energy equation. So second law, which deals with the entropy, so we're going to know the entropy relation. That means if we would be requiring to set up a relation with respect to entropy, then we will going to use this particular equation, that means second law of thermodynamics. Now fifth one is equation of state. if the gas is an ideal gas, then we can simply use PV is equals to mRT. So this particular equation we're going to use if the gas used is an ideal gas. So these are the 5 relations that we're going to use. Now first of all, we need to know the continuity equation in the differential form. So here I have drawn a diagram, and with the help of this diagram we're going to know the relationship. So this is a certain section or certain pipe through which fluid is flowing, and in that pipe I have drawn a certain control volume. So this control volume is not going to change. This particular section is our inlet and this particular section is our outlet. So what is going to happen is we're going to write down the relation, but there is also one condition. Then we need to know that whatever the fluid is going to come from here, that means at the inlet section, complete fluid will also going to travel at the outlet section as well. That means total change in the mass flow rate, that will be 0. That means there will be no change in the mass flow rate. So this is what we need to understand. And for now we going to write down the relation, that is dm by dt will be equals to del upon del t control volume rho dv plus integration control section rho v dot dA. So this is what our basic fundamental equation, or you can say the continuity equation. This particular section, this particular term deals with the control volume analysis, the control volume that we have drawn here, and this particular term deals with the control section. Control section means at inlet there will be some surface, and at outlet there will also be a surface. There are other surfaces as well, that is the circumference of this particular control volume or this particular pipe. So as per the need of the analysis, we're going to deal with the surfaces as well. So that is how the continuity equation we're going to use. Now the second equation was momentum equation. So I have mentioned here 2 equations. First one is in the x direction and second one is in the y direction. There are 2 forces. First one is the surface forces and second one is the body forces, and they should be equals to del upon del t in the control volume Vx, that means the velocity in the x direction, into the mass flow rate, plus this particular term deals with the force at the control surface. The analysis we have done earlier, the same type of analysis is going to valid for this particular term. Here one additional term is also there, that is Vx, that means the velocity in the x direction, and this term is what going to make this complete term a force. So this is what the analysis of the momentum equation in the x direction. Now similarly we have mentioned the surface forces and the body forces. Here the body force is Fby, and similarly that will be equals to del upon del t control volume Vy, the velocity in the y direction, dot rho into dv, plus integration control section velocity in the y direction dot density into the velocity component in the particular area in a particular direction into the area vector. So this particular term will be valid for the y direction. And here one thing that I need to tell you, that is about the body forces. What actually the body forces are, because these 2 forces will be different directions. Now let's say this is a particular body. If this particular body weights, let's say mg in the y direction, here I have drawn the coordinates, this is the x direction, this is y direction. So in the y direction the gravitational constant is g, then the body force will be equals to my in the y direction. That means fby will be equals to m into g, but that will be with of a negative sign. So similarly, if there will be some gravitational acceleration or gravitational constant in the x direction, then we also going to write down similar kind of force in the x direction, that means mgx. So this is what we're going to mention, that means fbx will be equals to minus mgx, because this g deals in the y direction and this g deals in the x direction. So these two are the components and these two are the body forces that we need to write down in this particular analysis. And one more thing we need to know regarding these two equations. These two equations valid only for the inertial reference frame. If there would be some non-inertial frame, then one more term will be added, and that will be equals to minus a reference into m. So this is what we need to write down with on the left hand side of these two particular equations. Talking about the third equation, that was the energy equation. Now in this equation there are several terms. So first term, that is q dot, that is the energy transfer in terms of heat, that is heat transfer. It may be from the system, it may be to the system, so that this particular heat can be positive, can be negative, it can be both. Now moving to the next one, that is w dot. This term represents the work done. It may be the shaft work or it may be the work done due to the normal forces. So, and it may be the summation of both of them. And the next term, that is w dot shear. This particular term represents the work done because of the shear stresses. Next term is w others. This particular work done deals with the other types of work done, for example like electrical work. So these particular work done can also. And similarly on the right hand side there are two terms, first one on the control volume basis and second term will be on the control surface basis. So control volume, so E del upon del T integration control volume E dot rho into dV. This small e represents the energy carried by the fluid per unit mass, and the mass has been given as rho into dV, plus this particular term deals with the energy at the at the control surface. Now in this term, that includes integration control surface bracket E plus PV rho v vector into area vector. So this complete equation tells about the energy exchange. Now the next relation was second law of thermodynamics that deals with the entropy. So the general equation of entropy, that is S2 minus S1, that is equals to cyclic integral delta Q upon T. So this particular term can be further divided into two categories. First one is the TdS equals to du plus P dV, and second term TdS equals to dH minus V dP. These two relations are called the TdS equations. So there are two TdS equations which I have already mentioned. Now next particular relation was equation of state. I have already mentioned it earlier. What actually the equation of state? If the assumed gas is an ideal gas, then we can assume that PV equals to mRT, where P is the pressure of the gas, V is the volume of the gas, M is the mass of the gas, R is the universal gas constant, and T is the absolute temperature. Similarly, we can further say about this particular relation that PV equals to N R T. So what does it mean? This particular relation can also be written down as in this form, that is PV equals to nRT, where P and V are the same terms that I have already told you in the previous equation. But now what is N? N represents the number of moles, and R represents R bar equals to capital M into R, where this is the value of this R bar equals to 8.314 kilojoule per kg mole Kelvin, and M represents the molecular weight, and R represents the gas characteristic constant. So this is what the relation is. So these 5 relations we're going to use when we're going to develop the relation between the thermodynamic parameters in compressible flow. There is one more relation that we can talk about, that is for an ideal gas, PV to the power K equals to constant. This for an ideal gas, and this particular relation we can also use. Now moving further, what we need to understand is the sound wave. What actually the sound wave is. Now here I have mentioned the definition of the sound wave. Sound wave is a pressure wave. This is a very key term. Is a pressure wave of very low pressure magnitude. This pressure magnitude can be of the order of 10 to the power minus 3 atmospheric pressure to 10 to the power minus 6 atmospheric pressure. These can be the range, and this can lead up to 10 to the power 10 atmospheric pressure. This would be the intensity. That would be the maximum intensity that the sound wave can travel. So this is what actually the sound wave is all about. Now from here we are going to develop the relationship between the velocity of sound and the pressure and density of that particular fluid. So this is what we need to develop the relation, that is the velocity of sound will be a function of the pressure and the density. Now to develop the relationship between the said parameters, I have drawn 2 diagrams. This figure represents figure 1 and this figure represents figure 2. Figure 1 is the diagram when observer is at rest, and figure 2 is the diagram when observer is at control volume. This particular figure, that is figure 2, we're going to see later, but before that we need to have a basic understanding of how the things are happening. Now let's say there is a space, this is a particular space, and there is a source of disturbance at the right hand side of this particular wavefront. This is a wavefront and there is a source of disturbance which is at the right hand side. Now as let's say this is a particular source, this has generated some disturbance. This will cause the wavefront to move in the leftward direction. So what is happening, just right next to this wavefront, if I pose this wavefront at a certain moment, let's say at time t, then what will happen, just the layer of particles just right next to this on the left hand side of the wavefront, what will happen is the velocity will be equal to 0 because there is no disturbance just right next to this wavefront, and there is a disturbance. So that is why, because of this disturbance, I have mentioned some velocity, and this velocity is dvx. Now if I talk about further, if certain disturbance has been created, then there will be some change in pressure, because this is what we have learned in the definition of the pressure wave or the sound wave. Similarly, certain changes in the density will also occur. So this is what the change I have already mentioned. As on the left hand side of this wave front there is no disturbance, so the pressure will be remain P, and the velocity will remain 0, and the density will remain rho. So this is what actually this diagram deals with. Now coming to this figure 2, so what is really happening is, same diagram is there, this wave front is still there. I have mentioned, I have drawn a control volume. I am going to use this control volume approach to solve this particular analysis. So what will happen is, I have drawn certain coordinate system, that is x and y. So similarly on the right hand side there was certain disturbance. So because of that disturbance the pressure will be P plus dP and the density will be rho plus d rho. Now this particular diagram deals with when the observer is at control volume. This wave front was moving in the leftward direction, earlier I have shown you. Now if this particular observer sits on this control volume which was on the wave front and which was moving with a velocity of sound in the leftward direction, so if the observer sits on this, then with respect to this particular observer this wave front will be stationary, and if this particular wave front is stationary, that means on the left hand side of this wave front where no disturbance is there, and on the right hand side where disturbance is there, there the velocity will be equals to c minus dvx, and where the no disturbance is, the velocity will be equals to c, which is the velocity of sound. So this is what particular this diagram is all about. Now using these two diagrams, what we're going to develop, we're going to use those 5 particular relations that we have talked about earlier. Now moving further, let us have some assumptions. These assumptions are, first, the flow will be steady flow. That means the flow parameters are not changing with respect to time. Second assumption is uniform flow at each section. That means the flow is a kind of flow where the flow parameters are not changing with respect to space. And the third one is the area that we have taken at these two surfaces of this particular control volume is A, that we have assumed. This is what the area is. Now using first equation, that was the continuity equation. Now let us write down this particular equation that we have used earlier. dm over dt del over del t control volume rho dv plus integration control surface rho v dot dA. So this was the particular equation that deals with the mass flow rate. Now I have already told you that this particular change in mass with respect to time is 0 because the net flow rate is 0. So by using that particular fact, we can write down dm over dt as to be 0. Second, as we have already mentioned that the type of flow is a steady flow, so therefore we can say that this particular term, that is del over del t integration at control volume rho dv will also be equals to 0. So we will be left out with just one single term, that is integration control surface rho v dot dA will be equals to 0. So we are going to use this particular relation and we'll find out some correlations. Now we're going to look at this particular diagram. This is the control volume and in that control volume, let us say this particular section is section 1 and this particular section is section 2. At section 1, the area vector is in the leftward direction and the velocity is in the rightward direction. So the angle between the area vector and the velocity vector is 180 degree. So we can say theta 1 equals to 180 degree, which is the angle between area vector and velocity vector. Similarly, at section 2, the area vector is in the rightward direction and the velocity is also in the rightward direction. So theta 2 will be equals to 0 degree, which tells us that the angle between the area vector and the velocity vector is 0 degree. We are going to use this particular relation in equation 2. Similarly, on the leftward side, the pressure was P, the velocity was C, the density was rho, and the area was A. And on the rightward direction, the pressure is P plus dP, velocity C minus dVx, density is rho plus d rho, and the area is A. So we're going to use these particular terms and relations in equation 2. Now we're going to use this particular formula. So we're going to write down at section 1, because that is one such surface and the section 2 is second surface. So at section 1, on the left surface, we're going to write down rho into the velocity and the area vector, both are in the dot product. So we're going to use the relation of the dot product. So we're going to write down C into A into cos 180, because this particular term is the dot product of the velocity and the area vector. Similarly, on the second section, that is surface 2, because this particular term deals with the control surface analysis, so that is why we are dealing with the control surface approach. Second term will be equals to rho into the velocity in the rightward on the right surface, that is equals to C minus dVx into the area is still A into cos 0. The angle between them is 0 degree. So that is why we are using this relation, which will be equals to 0. Now we are going to solve it further. We are going to get, I beg your pardon, here I have mentioned rho, but this is rho plus d rho. So we're going to solve it further. We'll get, so this is what we're going to get, minus rho CA plus rho AC plus d rho into CA minus rho A into dVx minus d rho into dVx into A. That will be equals to 0. So we're going to cancel out some terms. This term will be cancelled out by this, and similarly, as d rho is very small, that is the change in density is very small, and that is multiplied with the change in velocity, that is the velocity of disturbance. This particular velocity with respect to the velocity of sound is very small, so the multiplication of them will also lead to almost 0 with respect to other terms. So what we are left out with, we are left out with d rho into C into A minus rho into A dVx will be equals to 0. Now we're going to write down this particular term on the right hand side. So we're going to get d rho into C into A, that is equals to rho A into dVx. Now A on the left hand side and on the right hand side, that will be cancelled out, and we'll be left out with d rho upon rho equals to dVx upon C. This is what the particular relation, and we're going to write it equation 3. Now talking about the second general equation, that was this momentum equation. So I have mentioned it over here, that I have already told you earlier. So surface forces are still there, but body forces are not there. Similarly, the frame that we have used is the inertial frame, so A reference will be also equals to 0, so we are not going to deal with this. Third, that is del upon del T at the contour volume integration Vx into rho dV. This particular term will also be equal to 0 because we have already assumed that type of flow is a steady flow. So we will be left out with just two terms, that is the surface forces, and the second term will be equals to control surface Vx rho V into dA. So first of all we are going to calculate the surface force. The diagram I have shown it here. This particular diagram represents the control volume, and on the left hand side of the control volume the pressure was P. Similarly, on the right hand side of the control volume the pressure was P plus dP. Now if you multiply these pressures with their corresponding area, then we're going to get the force, and this particular force will be the surface force. So we're going to write it down that Fsx, that will be equals to P dot A minus, because I've already mentioned it that the coordinate system in this control volume, this is x and this is y, so the right hand side direction represents the positive side and the left hand side represents the negative side. So this particular pressure into area, this represents the force, and this particular force is in the rightward direction as in the direction of the coordinate system of x, coordinate axis of x, so I beg your pardon. So this term P dot A will be positive, and this term, that is P plus dP into A, that will be negative. So that's why I have used negative sign with P plus D plus A. So P plus dP into A. Now we're going to simplify it. We'll be left out with minus dP into A. So that will be the surface force that we're going to use. Similarly, we're going to find out this particular term that represents integration at the contour surface Vx rho V dot A dA. Now we're going to find out the right hand side term. We can write down as integration control surface Vx rho V dot dA. So this particular term will be calculated at two sections, at section 1 and at section 2, because these are the two surfaces that we are dealing with. So at the first surface, that is at section 1, the velocity is c, so we're going to write it as it is in the rightward direction, so we're going to write it as positive. So c into this particular term, the density at the left hand side is rho, so we're going to write as rho into the velocity vector and the area vector are in the dot product, so we're going to deal with this in a similar manner. So the kind of the multiplication that we're going to get is c into the velocity is, so the area is A into cos 180. So this is what we're going to get. And at section 2, if we find out, the velocity is still in the rightward direction, so we're going to write it as positive plus c minus dvx into the density is rho plus d rho into, and on the section 2 the velocity and the area vector both are still in the dot product, so we're going to deal with this in the same manner. So we're going to write it as c minus dvx into the area is still A into cos 0, because the angle between them is equals to 0. Now if we simplify them, so what we're going to get is, now we're going to use continuity equation to solve this particular equation. As we know earlier that the continuity equation was minus rho ca plus rho plus d rho into c minus dvx into A, so that is equals to 0. So what we're going to use, we're going to write down this particular term and we're going to replace this with rho CA. So if we write C into rho CA with a negative sign, because cos 180 is equals to -1, so multiplying it to -1 we're going to get minus sign, plus C minus dvx into rho plus d rho into C minus dvx into A, which is equals to rho into CA. So rho into CA, cos 0 is 1, so we're not going to change it. Now if we solve further, what we're going to get is rho CA will be taken as common, rho CA, and we are left out with in the brackets minus C plus C minus dvx. This C and this C, they will be cancel out, and we are left out with just minus rho CA into dvx. This is the second term. So this particular relation from the momentum equation can be written as, so what we're going to get is minus dpa equals to minus rho CA into dvx, because on the left hand side there was a surface force, so surface force we get, what we get is minus dp into A, and on the right hand side that was the control surface term, so this term that came out as minus rho CA dvx. So this is what we have written. Now if we're going to simplify, what we're going to get is dp will be equals to rho C into dvx. So this is what we're going to get is, so this particular equation we're going to write it as equation 4. So we are left out with equation 3 and equation 4. Now if we replace dvx from equation 3 to dvx in equation 4, what we're going to get is, we're going to write it as dp equals to rho C into dvx will be equals to C into d rho upon rho. Now if we simplify it further, this rho will be cancelled out with this rho, and we're going to get C square is equals to dp upon d rho, and we can write it as C equals to under root dp upon d rho. So this is the main relation that we want to establish. Now we're going to find out some conclusions on the basis of this particular equations. As we know that C is the velocity of sound, and dp is the change in pressure, and d rho is the change in density. As the pressure is going to change, the density is also going to change. So what will be the relation? We're going to simplify it on the basis of 3 modes or 3 mediums or the 3 phases of matter. That is of the solid, second is of the liquid, and third one is of the gases. Now if we want to find out that in what medium the velocity of sound will be maximum, so we're going to solve it one by one. As we know, the interatomic distances and the fixation of the atoms or molecules, or one more thing we can say, that atoms or molecules in a particular medium, how much they are free to move. So the maximum freedom is in the gases, and the level goes down in the liquids, and the least movement or the least freedom are in the solid. So one thing is for sure, that the change in density will be least in case of the solid. So least change in density will be in the solid, and the maximum change in density will be in the gases. If we apply certain change in pressure, or if we cause certain change in pressure, that will give certain amount of pressure change, that will lead to change in density as well. So for the same amount of change in pressure, if the density change is least in solid, so the velocity of sound will be maximum in the solid, and the velocity of sound in the gases will be least, as we can find out from the this particular equation, because the change in density is indirectly proportional to the sound of velocity of sound. So this is what we can refer from this particular equation. So if we write down them in the decreasing order of velocity of sound, so what we can write down is the maximum is in the solids, then it will be in the liquids, and third it will be in the gases. So in these three phases of matter, this is what the decreasing order of velocity of sound. One more thing I would like to mention over here. Let's say we have a hypothetical matter on which if we apply some pressure, and if the change in density is 0, so what it will lead to, that will lead to C tends to infinity. That means if there is no change in density, the velocity of sound will be tending to infinity. So this is one of the very important relation that we can conclude from this particular formula. Generally what happens is that a particular substance, each property depends on any two independent properties. So this is what I have mentioned it over here, that the pressure, that is always a function of density and entropy. If we find out this particular relation in the mathematical form, so in the with the help of thermodynamic relations, we can write down it as dP equals to del P upon del rho at constant entropy into d rho plus del P upon delta S at constant density into ds. So this is what we can write down with the help of thermodynamic relation. And further, if we assume that the kind of process is isentropic, then we can say that ds will be equals to 0. So if ds is going to 0, then we can use this particular term over here, that ds will be equals to 0, so this whole term will be equals to 0. So we will be left out with dP equals to delta P upon delta rho at constant entropy into d rho. We are going to rearrange it in the following manner. dP upon d rho will be equals to delta P upon delta rho at constant entropy, and we are going to use this formula or this particular relation with C equals to under root dP upon d rho. So if we write down, or if we replace this dP upon d rho with this particular relation, so what we're going to get it as C equals to under root delta P upon delta rho at constant entropy. So this is what we have changed from total differentiation to partial differentiation. This is what the main and the important thing about the change in pressure with respect to the change in density at constant entropy of, you can say, for an isentropic process. Because generally what happens is, in an air, when a particular aircraft or particular high velocity matter or substance that passes through atmosphere, so what happens is the process happens so fast that there will be no time left for any heat exchange. So we can assume that particular process as an isentropic process. So if that process is an isentropic process, so we can write down this total differentiation term in terms of the partial differentiation. So this is what we're going to write it. Now moving further, if we write down that EV, that is the bulk modulus. So what actually EV is? If we go by formula, then EV is equals to dP upon d rho upon rho. So if we use, let's say this is equation 6 and this is equation 7. So if we use these two equations, so what we're going to use, what we're going to write it, C equals to under root EV upon rho. This is what the formula we're going to use. So this is also one such formula that we can use for the three phases, that is solid, liquid and gases, where EV is the bulk modulus and rho is the density of the matter and C is the velocity of sound. Now if we move further, let us assume that considered gas as an ideal gas, so we can write PV to the power K equals to constant. So if we're going to use this particular relation, so what we're going to do, we're going to differentiate this particular equation, then we'll get dP, or I think first we should change this particular volume term in terms of the density. So let me just erase this, and we're going to write it as P upon rho to the power K, that is equals to constant. Now if we differentiate, so what we're going to get is dP upon P minus K d rho upon rho, that will be equals to 0. So if we write down that dP upon P equals to K d rho upon rho, then we can say dP upon d rho, that will be equals to K P upon rho. Let's say this is a equation number B. As we know, for an ideal gas, that P upon rho equals to RT. So let's say this is an equation C. So by using equation B and equation C, we can write down dP upon d rho equals to K RT. And if we use this particular relation in the earlier relation that we get, which was C equals to under root dP upon d rho, so what we're going to get is C is equals to under root KRT. So this will be the main relation if we talk about the considered gas as an ideal gas. So the velocity of sound will be equals to under root K into R into T. So that was all about the compressible flow and its basic equation. Now moving forward, let us know how many types of flows are there. So generally there are three types of flows. So generally there are three types of flows. First one is the subsonic flow, second one is sonic flow, and third one is supersonic flow. So what is the difference between all of them? So first of all, let's just talk about a particular term that deals with the actual velocity of the object and the velocity of sound. So let's say the velocity of an object, that is equals to V, and the velocity of sound is equals to C. So if we divide velocity of an object to the velocity of sound, we're going to get a particular fraction, and this particular term is known as M. This particular M is nothing, this is as Mach number. There are several types of flows which moves at a velocity greater than the velocity of sound. So there we use this particular term, because generally we see in the defense that a supersonic missile has been developed by DRDO. So these kind of things actually we listen so many times. So they define their speed in terms of this Mach number. So if Mach number is less than 1, then the type of flow is subsonic flow. And if Mach number equals to 1, then the type of flow is called sonic flow. And if Mach number is greater than 1, then the type of flow is supersonic flow. Earlier, why I have used that the types of flow, there are generally 3 types of flow, but there one more type of flow is, which is hypersonic flow. Hypersonic flow. In this, the Mach number is greater than 5. So when the velocity of the object that is more than 5 times of the velocity of sound, then the type of flow is called hypersonic flow. And these type of terms we use in the compressible flow, so that is why we are learning it. Now here we're going to discuss about these types of flow one by one. So first let us just talk about sonic flow. If we talk about the sonic flow, first let us just write down some terms. That is the velocity of an object, that is v, and the velocity of sound is equals to c. Now let's say this particular object is standing at this at certain moment, let's say time t equals to 0, at this position. Now after certain period of time, let's say after delta t period of time, if we find out the position of the object, so that will be equals to v into delta t. So let's say this is the particular position that this object gets, and if we move further after one more delta t time, that means at 2 delta t, position will be equals to v into 2 delta t. So we're going to draw this point after certain location. So the object is moving in this direction, and similarly at let's say 3 delta t time, position will be equal to velocity into 3 delta t. So that is increasing linearly, so that is why the difference between them is 0, and the next point will be somewhere around here. So one more point let us draw at 4 delta t, position will be equals to v into 4 delta t. So this position this object is going to get at this particular location. So we have drawn 5 points, and this is what the first point was at time t equals to 0. This was the second point at time delta t. This was the third point at time 2 delta t, and this was the fourth point at time 3 delta t, and this was the fifth point at time 4 delta t. So we have drawn 5 points. Now let's say, as we have assumed the type of flow that is sonic flow, so velocity of the object will be less than the velocity of sound. So what does it represents? That the distance moved by the wave front will be more than the distance traveled by the object. Now as we know, in the sonic flow the velocity of an object is less than the velocity of sound. So what we're going to get is this particular diagram. How are we going to get this diagram? Let's see. This was the initial position of the object. Let's say after delta t time, the distance covered by the wave front will be this particular circle, that is circle 1, after a period after delta t period of time. So the distance will be equals to c into delta t. Now next moment, after 2 delta t moment, the distance covered by the wave front will be equals to c into 2 delta t. So that is what will be the radius of this particular circle, that is the circle 2. The distance or the radius will be equals to c into 2 into delta t. when after certain period of time at 3 delta t, the distance covered by the wavefront will be equals to c into 3 delta t. This will be the distance that will be covered by the wavefront all around this particular point. When the object will be at this particular point, that is point number 4, and this was the circle number 3. So this is the point 3, this is the point 2, and this is the initial position itself. The 1 dash we can write, 2 dash, 3 dash, or 4 dash. It will better to write. So what we're going to get is, when the object is at position 4 dash, so the distance covered by the wavefront will be equals to c into 4 delta t. At 4 delta t moment, the object is at 4 dash position, so the wavefront is going to travel from this particular point, that is 4 dash. So the wavefront that we're going to get is this particular wavefront. The radius or the distance traveled by the wavefront will be equal to c into 4 delta t. So it is delta t, I beg your pardon. So this is 4 delta t. So this is what actually it is all about, the sonic flow. Now further, let us talk about the second type of flow, that is sonic flow. In this type of flow, the velocity of the object is equals to the velocity of sound. I have already mentioned that velocity of object is equals to v and the velocity of sound is equals to c. So let's just consider this particular case. So what we're going to get is, let's say the object was initially at position 1, and this object starts moving in the leftward direction, and consequently it get to position 2 dash, position 3 dash, and 4 dash. So what we're going to get is, the velocity of the object, or you can say initially the position of the object was at 1 dash. After delta t period of time, the position the object is going to get, that will be 2 dash. So let's say this particular distance is v into delta t, and this is 3 dash, so we're going to write it down as v into 2 delta t. Similarly to 4 dash, this will be v into 3 delta t. So these are the distances that this particular object is going to cover. In the similar way, at delta t moment, when the object will be at 2 dash, the wavefront will go by the distance of c into delta t. So this c into delta t, that we have mentioned it, but actually at delta t moment, the wavefront will not be at this position. This will be somewhere around this position that I have shown by the dotted line. And similarly, when this particular object is going to be at position 2 after delta 2t, so this particular wavefront will be at this in this position that I have drawn. And after delta 3 delta 3 moment, so the object will be at in the following position that I'm right now drawing. So this will be the position of the object, and consequently at 4 delta t moment, the object will be at a position where circle 1 is being drawn. So this is what actually the process is going to take place. But here in this case, you might be get confused that why I have drawn these particular diagrams, that is those are in the blue color. So Let me just erase these diagrams first. So the diagram, that the circles that I have drawn in the blue color, why I have drawn them? So they are the circles after getting to a new position immediately after delta t period of time. Now let's say, for example, I have considered 2 points, that is 2 dash and 3 dash. So the distances covered by the object will be equals to v into 2 delta t and v into 3 delta t. So these are the distances, and if I want to find out the difference, that will be equals to v into delta t. So this will be the distance that will be covered by the object in a time interval of 2 delta t to 3 delta t. So in that period, this particular object, the circle is going to draw, that is circle 2. Similarly, when it will be jumping from position 3 to position 4, it will be drawing a new diagram or a new circle, that will be a circle 4. So that is how actually the development is going to take place, and the wave front is going to move. Now next, let us discuss about the supersonic flow. The discussion we're going to take forward, as it will be in the same manner as was in the earlier section. We have a point 1 dash, that was the initial position of the object, and the object is moving with a velocity of v. Similarly, the velocity of the wave front of the, or you can say the velocity of the sound, that will be equals to c. So let's say the object, initial position of the object, let's say is at 1 dash. After certain period of time, that is delta t period of time, this object moves to position 2 dash, and after 2 delta t period of time, this object moves to position 3 dash, and after 3 delta t period of time, this object moves to the position 4 dash. So the wave front generated by them will be in this particular shape that I have drawn. So what is going to happen, these wave fronts will going to coincide in such manner that they are going to form a cone shape. This will be a cone shape, and the front they are going to generate, that front is going to be known as cone front. And beyond this front, there will be a zone, that zone will be a zone of silence, because after this cone front there will be no sound heard by any person. And this particular zone which is inside of this cone, that zone is called as zone of action. Why this zone is called as zone of action? Because the sound that will be heard, and because of the disturbance created by the object, that will be only in this particular zone, which is called as a zone of action. But this cone is going to remain as a cone if the velocity is going to remain unchanged. That means the velocity is not going to be changed throughout their journey. So we can see from the diagram that this cone is making certain angle with the axis of the object. Let's say this angle is to be known as alpha. So if we want to find out the value of alpha, then we can write it as sine alpha will be equals to c upon v, where we can rearrange it as in the following manner: v upon c, and that will be equals to m. So we can say the angle made by this particular cone will be equals to the sine of that angle will be equals to 1 upon m. One more point actually I need to mention over here, that this particular cone is also known as Mach cone. Now to understand the concept of this Mach cone, what we're going to do, we're going to solve one example on basis of this supersonic flow. so that we can understand it quite easily. Now in this question, let me read out this question. In test of a protective material, we wish to photograph a bullet as it impacts a jacket made up of the material. A camera is set up a perpendicular distance h equals to 5 meter from the bullet trajectory. We wish to determine the perpendicular distance d from the target plane at which the camera must be placed such that the sound of the bullet will trigger the camera at the impact time. One note has been already mentioned that the bullet speed is measured to be 550 meter per second and the time delay of the camera is 0.005 second. Now in this diagram there is an object, this is the object, and there is one bullet. What the question is saying that the bullet has to be fired such that there is a camera we need to place. Let's say at this position the camera needs to be placed. The question is asking at what distance from the object this camera needs to be placed at 5 meter perpendicular distance from the bullet trajectory. So if we want to solve this particular question, what we need to find out is the velocity of the object and the velocity of sound. They have given us the velocity of the object, that is to be as 550 meter per second, but what we need to find out is the velocity of the sound. So if we find out the velocity of sound, now from this we know the formula, velocity of sound equals to under root kRt. The parameters we need to know is the value of k, the value of r, and the value of t. So the value of t they have given us as 288 Kelvin. We need to find out the velocity of sound, that is equals to c, which will be equals to 1.4 into 287 into 288, and that will give us the value 340 meter per second, because as we know at 15 Celsius temperature the velocity of sound is equals to 340 meter per second. So now from here we can find out the value of m, that is Mach number, that is equals to v upon c, and the v they have given us, that is 550, and c we have already find out as 340. So what the value we going to get is 1.62. Now moving further, from this Mach number what we can find out, we can find out the object is moving with a supersonic speed. That means it is moving with a velocity more than of a velocity of sound. So that means it is going to generate a cone which will be known as Mach cone. So let me just draw this particular diagram. This will be the perpendicular distance. Now let's say this particular angle is has to be alpha, so therefore we can write it as sine alpha equals to 1 upon m. That means sine alpha will be equals to 1.62, and alpha, the value of alpha will be equals to 38.2 degree. So this is the second value that we get, and now we're going to use these particular value. Now if we go back to this diagram, what this diagram has shown us, that let's say this bullet has reached this particular point, so let us draw the Mach cone at this particular point. It will be drawn something like this, and the Mach cone has to pass through this camera so that camera can capture this recording. So from this diagram we can say that the value of alpha, we know the perpendicular distance of the radius of the cone is 5 meter. What we need to find out is the height of the cone. So we can use geometry over here, and we're going to simplify it now. Now let us draw the same parameters just as above in the picture. Now this was the distance 5 meter, this was the distance x, and this was the semicone angle, that was alpha. Now we're going to use geometry in this, and what we're going to get is x equals to h upon 10 alpha. That means x will be equals to 5 meter upon 10, 38.2 degree. So if we simplify it, we'll get 6.35 meter as the answer. But there is a problem, as they have given us certain time delay. The camera capture, the time delay of the camera was 0.005 second. So if we need to find out the distance will be equals to this particular distance, that means x, plus the velocity of the bullet into this particular time interval. So after using this particular form, what we're going to get is, that is 6.35 plus 550, that was the velocity of the bullet, into 0.005. After calculating, what we're going to get is 6.35 plus 2.75, and that will be equals to 9.10 meter. So that will be the distance at which the camera should be located from the object. So that was all about the first part of the compressible flow. Remaining part will be discussed in the upcoming videos. Thank you.